Hello and welcome to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. My name is Natalie Himmelrich. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is completely self-funded, produced and edited by me, Natalie Himmelrich. Consider making a small donation to support the podcast. Go to bit.ly/support, capital G, capital T, and podcast. I repeat, bit.ly/supportgt podcast. Thank you so much. And for more information, please visit Natalie's website, join the podcast Instagram page, and subscribe to the newsletter to receive updates on future episodes. Welcome to the special series on the many phases of trauma. In each episode, we'll explore one trauma type in a clear, gentle way, what it is, how it can show up in daily life, and one small step that can help your nervous system feel a little safer. Nothing here is meant to diagnose you, and you're always invited to take what fits and leave the rest. And because this is trauma work, we'll end up every episode with a short grounding practice you can do anywhere. Today, we're talking about developmental trauma, how repeated stress or unsafety during childhood can shape the nervous system, emotions, relationships, and self-concept over time. This will be, as always, general and non-graphic. And as always, you're invited to pause, slow down, or return later if you notice activation or shutdown. We've spoken about developmental trauma before in episodes 65 and 66, but in this series, I want to give you a complete map. So, developmental trauma is a big topic. And if you try to cover everything at once, it can become overwhelming, especially for listeners who are already carrying a lot. So today I'm offering just a brief map, a clear definition, a few common pathways, how it tends to show up later, and what helps as first steps. If you want a deeper dive after this episode, again, check out the earlier episode 65 and 66, where I explore developmental trauma in more detail. So what developmental trauma is? Developmental trauma usually refers to chronic, repeated stress or unsafety during childhood, especially when it happens in the context of dependency on caregivers and limited ability to escape. And it's not only about extreme events, it's often about patterns, what a child repeatedly had to adapt to. A simple definition is, developmental trauma is what happens when a child's nervous system develops under ongoing conditions of stress, unpredictability, or emotional unsafety, without enough protection, support, and repair. That can include emotional neglect or chronic criticism, unpredictable caregiving, exposure to ongoing conflict, caregiver mental illness or addiction without support, parentification, which is when the child becomes the caretaker, bullying combined with lack of adult protection, chronic instability such as housing, finances, migration stress, repeated medical stressors, or environments where a child must constantly monitor adults' moods. Again, this is not about blame. Many caregivers did their best with what they had. Developmental trauma often reflects a lack of support around the whole family system, not a simple villain story. Now let's have a look at why this impacts so many areas. What makes developmental trauma unique is that it happens during the years when we are forming. Our nervous system regulation is forming, our emotional literacy, identity, our attachment templates, our boundaries and self-trust, our beliefs about safety, love, and worth. So the impact can be broad. You can think of it like building a house during a storm. You still build, you adapt, you survive, but the structure forms under pressure. And later, when life becomes calmer, the body might still behave as if the storm is ongoing, because that's what the foundation has learned. So imagine a child who grows up in a home where the caregiver's mood is unpredictable. Some days are warm and playful, other days are cold, critical, or explosive. So the child learns quickly the safest strategy is to scan, anticipate, and adjust. As an adult, that person becomes exceptionally good at reading people. They feel others' mood instantly. They can be competent and helpful, and also anxious, exhausted, or resentful. Rest feels unsafe because rest means no scanning. They might look high functioning, but inside they're always managing. That's developmental trauma in everyday life. A nervous system trained for adaptation and not ease. The polyvagal lens, a developing system in protection. So here's the polyvagal-informed piece in plain language. A child's nervous system is shaped by what it repeatedly experiences as safe or unsafe. If safety and connection are available often enough, a system learns I can settle, I can ask for help, my feelings are survivable, and repair is possible. If, however, stress is chronic and safety is inconsistent, the system may spend more time in protection. So mobilized protection, which is the fight and flight response, can become the default, which shows up as anxiety, irritability, overthinking, hypervigilance, urgency, perfectionism, controlling behavior, and difficulty relaxing. Shutdown protection can also become familiar. This can be experienced as numbness, fog, dissociation, low energy, collapse, and a feeling of what's the point, or difficulty initiating, difficulty connecting, and feeling detached from your needs. So a child doesn't choose these states. The body chooses them to survive. Because the child has no chance to get away. They are dependent on their parent. They can't just move away. So rather than thinking their parents are not fully equipped or inadequate in some way, they always think, what's wrong with me? So when an adult now says, why am I like this? One compassionate answer is, because your system learned that this was necessary. 4 developmental patterns. So this is simple math without diagnosing. It is practical to have these 4 common patterns that can form under chronic childhood stress. So you might recognize one, several, or none. Number 1 is the scanner. They're always reading the room, anticipating, managing, overthinking. They're often competent and often exhausted. Then number 2 is the pleaser. They stay safe by being easy, helpful, or agreeable. And they may struggle with boundaries and resentment. Number 4 is the protector. He stays safe by staying in control, staying strong, not needing anyone or anything. They may feel threatened by vulnerability. And number 4 is the disconnector. They stay safe by numbing, minimizing, disappearing, or going quiet. And they may struggle to identify needs or feelings. So these aren't neat labels to pin on yourself. They're survival strategies, and they can soften with support and practice. So let's have a look at what helps. Because developmental trauma healing is often less about one breakthrough and more about consistent rewiring. So here are gentle starting points. Number 1 is safety in small doses. So predictable routines, stable rhythms, tiny moments of rest. And the second one is regulation skills before deep processing. Because if your system is in protection, insight alone won't be enough. I like the sentence that I have here stuck on my desk computer. It says, thinking doesn't really change your nervous system. Learning to feel safe enough changes your nervous system. So learn to be comfortable in uncomfortable sensations in your body. So if you're a partner or helper, the most helpful question is often, what would feel helpful or supportive right now? More space, more reassurance, or more clarity? Because number 4 is one safe or a safe relationship is needed where repair happens. Again, this can be a therapist, a trusted person, or in a group, anywhere you can practice rupture and repair. For this topic, I chose a varied grounding practice which is called the pendulation light. So this is a gentle practice often used in somatic work. It's not intense, it's simply helping your nervous system notice that it can move between neutral and activated instead of getting stuck. So as a first step, find neutral. So notice one neutral sensation in your body. Maybe your hands resting, or your feet on the floor, or the air on your face. And just notice that. And then the next step is notice a mild activation. Now gently notice a mild area of tension, nothing overwhelming. Maybe your jaw or shoulders or belly. And just notice it without diving in or any request to change it. Just observe. And then the next step is return to your neutral. Bring attention back to the neutral place. Let your breath happen naturally. And step 4 is, we'll repeat this. We move from neutral to mild tension and to neutral again. And this is teaching your nervous system, I can move and I'm not trapped. So I'll allow a bit of space for you to just pendulate between neutral and mild tension. And the last step is say softly to yourself, this is a body that adapted and it can learn safety now. This is a body that adapted and it can learn safety now. So to close today, if you'd like support as you move through this series, check my website for the free resources offered for both those affected by trauma and grief and those supporting them. And if you want deeper exploration of developmental trauma beyond this brief map, go and revisit the early episodes 65 and 66, where I go into the topic in more depth. The next episode will move into intergenerational trauma and what gets carried forward and how we can begin to loosen what was never ours to carry. Until then, take care. Thanks for listening to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. If you'd like to be updated on future episodes, please subscribe to my newsletter on nataliehimmelrich.com. If you need grief support, please contact me for a 30 minutes free discovery session. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is produced and edited by me, Natalie Himmelrich. To support this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you. And remember to keep breathing. I promise it will get easier.